So if you've met me in person, you've heard me say the phrase, stop selling, start helping, over and over again. And today we're going to talk to an author that actually wrote a book about it. Welcome to another episode of Let's Teach You Something. So today I have a very special guest with me.
Hey, I'm Matt
Yes.
White, and I am the owner of Superhero Messaging, Marketing, and Sales, also the author of, as Chris mentioned, Stop Selling, Start Helping.
Awesome. So you wrote a book, Matt. What brought you to write a book even?
That's a great question. I actually wrote the book back in 2016, still absolutely applies today. But what it was basically a culmination of blogs that I had been writing for 3 to 4 years for my own business. So from a content perspective, I was basically, preaching the concept of stop selling, start helping, and be a resource and a tool and help more than you are pushing and selling all the time. And over 4 years, roughly blogging and or video content, once a week, sometimes more than that. I had quite a bit of content that I had created over that time and always got great feedback on that kind of stuff. And it was a driver of my own business for sure. And so I thought it would be a good idea to put it out there. And as an author, as a business owner, that kind of stuff, if you can write a book, if you have the ability, there is so much credibility and authority that comes out of that because I always joke or say, that it's the best business card you could ever have, right? So if you're talking to somebody and then you say, hey, talking about this concept or this type of business or whatever, and then you say, hey, by the way, I wrote a book on this, right? I mean, it's just all of a sudden your elevation of authority and credibility launches up there. So it worked for that as well.
Awesome. I've put it on my to-do list next year, 2023. I need to write a book as well. And I started doing some research. And did you know you can print up your own books for as little as $6 a piece on Amazon through their self-publishing?
That's
It's
exactly what I
not as
used.
expensive as people think.
Yeah, it's called something different now. Amazon publishing some. It was called CreateSpace back when I did
Yeah.
it, but they have their own version. But yeah, so it's on demand, and that's that's the tool that I use. So the content I put all together, and then they helped with they have a system that allows you to put the layout together and all that kind of stuff, and then literally books get ordered and then books get printed and they ship out. They manage all the fulfillment, all that kind of stuff. I can order as many as I want. So when I do public speaking and things like that, I will order a set of books because that's part of what I do in my speaking piece is to give away books and things like that. So I can order a bunch of them, and for me, I want to say the hard cost is like $3 or something like that. And yeah, I think my book is for sale. Maybe it's $14.99 or $13.99 or something like that online, and I get a little deposit every once in a while in my bank account without having to do anything. So I think they take a good chunk of that, but I make $6 or $7, something like that, every time a book
Yeah, but
sales.
you wrote the book just to build your business. It wasn't to
Right,
be a published author in the sense of becoming rich from it. But
right.
that's a whole nother subject of
Whole nother
the
subject we can
advantages of
get
writing
into
a
another.
book.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
let's actually get into your book now.
Let's
All
do
right,
it.
so you actually broke it down to 4 parts, which is simple. 4-part system here we got here. So let's start with number 1. Why traditional sales doesn't work anymore. So you kind of talk about this push versus pull system.
Yeah, and I use the example in the book about a string, and if you've ever tried to push a string, right? It just doesn't work. And but if you wanted to pull something, you can pull that string or pull something on the end of that string. And I'll use another example on that in just a second. But that concept of kind of what has changed in traditional sales, traditional selling and buying and all that, as you know, and everybody watching this obviously knows, is that there is absolutely a change in the way that people buy, which in turn means we need to sell differently. And so this whole idea of pushing and pulling is what it used to be. Is when you would have to go buy a car, for example, there was only so much you could learn before you got to the dealership. And so when you got there, it was their job basically to push you into the direction that they felt like, and hopefully they were doing the right thing, but a lot of times, they may have their own motivation, but they were pushing you by telling you certain things, giving you all the specs. You walk into Best Buy, same deal. Tell me about all these 17 different TVs and what's the benefit. And so it was a lot of push, push, push because it needed to be done. And so again, it wasn't that it was bad necessarily, but it's absolutely has changed. And so now the latest stat that I have, and I believe it's got to be higher than that, but like 70 to 75% of the buying decision is made before they even walk in your door or come to or visit your website to make that purchase. So if you're a physical location and or an online type of a seller, or whether it's business service, all that kind of stuff, people are doing the research, right? They're reading reviews, they're looking over your site, your competitors' sites, they're doing searches on Google, all those things. And so, what you want to try to do is to get found and be seen and be a part of that discussion way earlier in the process. So, you're basically become that expert and that authority that you can then kind of pull them along in the process. So, as they have questions, and I'll throw out a great resource too. Marcus Sheridan is an author, and he wrote a book called They Ask You Answer. And the whole concept there, and I talk a lot about that in the book too, is that uh, your customers have questions. They're out there searching how to, where to, what is, all the types of initial types of questions that they're putting on Google to search. If you can be out there and become that source and that tool or that resource to be able to answer those questions and then kind of get them again kind of pulled into the process where you're educating, you're helping them, you're not selling them yet, you're just kind of giving them some information and helping out. Then the hope is that you create a platform, and we can talk about automation and all the other things that are a part of that. But the goal is that if you can answer questions and be helpful and all those things without, early on anyway, without ever talking about trying to sell them something, they feel much more likely and much more apt to want to do business with you or want to buy from you. And so I think that's the main difference. And I want to also, I said I'd reference another kind of a pull suggestion or kind of analogy. So there's this thing called the monkey's paw, and it's a this analogy is used, I got from Sandler sales training stuff, but this monkey's paw, believe it or not, is actually an extra little piece of rope. So you've got these big giant tanker ships, right, that are in the ocean coming into port and all this stuff. And again, I don't know if it's used still today, but I believe so. You imagine this enormous boat that has this, all the weight and all the thing, and it's got to be pulled into a very tiny place to be able to do what it's got to do. There's this thing called the monkey's paw, and it was just a little piece, and they called it that because of that. But it was basically a smaller piece of rope that came off of this big giant rope, right? So the big giant ropes that tie you into the harbor are these big things. But if you can just grab that little part they call the monkey's paw, if you can just pull that just a little bit, even as an individual, you can start to move the entire ship, right? So I couldn't grab onto that big giant rope and start pulling a boat, right? But if I just kind of grab the little piece, and even that little piece will make the big thing start to come. And so what the idea there is, get them with the little things, start helping them with little things, answering their questions, pulling them into the conversation. And then the hope is that over time, as you get, become more trusted and become more empathetic to their situation and that kind of stuff, then that little pull will then become a big giant pull down the road.
Yeah, I mean, that's also true. And you think about it, consumers are so much smarter these days. They go out, they do their own research, they figure out what they want to do, where they want to do, who they want to work with, and all this before they ever come to you. It's not walking into, like you mentioned, the car dealership. People would just walk in the car dealership and test drive cars. The last three cars that I purchased, I never test drove them.
Right.
I was able to research online. I knew what I wanted. And then I contacted dealer, and through text messaging, I was able to work out my price. And then online, I filled up my finance reports, went in, looked up the vehicle I was going to sign for. Awesome. Signed the paperwork, drove home. It was
Right.
amazing. You would never do that back in the day. So the concept is you need to have yourself out there to pull people towards you, as you say, towards your products and services. That's great. All right, so let's move on to part two. Part two of the book. There's a new system for buying, which means a new system for selling, which essentially that's what we're kind of talking about here.
Yeah, so let into that just a little bit, and I think that's the big part is that nowadays, because people are so educated, they can spot a sales pitch from a mile away, right? So you trying to be the guy or the gal or the business or whatever that's trying to sell, the second you start to use language that is salesy, that is the traditional typical kind of stuff, that's as soon as you start to turn people off. I'll use an example from a web perspective, just because that's where a lot of my business is. But if you picture, and especially now we're recording this, near Black Friday, right? So there's going to be a ton of sales, ton of emails coming out, and all that kind of stuff. If you go to, and I did some kind of unofficial research of my own, but I looked at over 100 websites, and of those 100, I want to say it was 85 or 87 that were what I say trying to French kiss you before you even went on the first date. So that's one of my examples that I use is, what that means is from the website perspective is that the second you get there from a dating idea is, if I'm going to date you, I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to get to know you. We're going to go out on a couple dates first. We're going to talk. We're going to see if we're a good fit and all those kind of things before I say, hey, maybe we should kiss here a little bit, or the whatever goes from that point. We don't have to discuss, but uh, the idea of walking up to somebody blindly on the street and saying, hey, you want to make out? That's like a step beyond, but that's exactly what happens in our websites, in our stores, and all these things that are out there from a business perspective is that the second you get there, they say $1,000 off this mattress, buy this thing, big sale, 20% off, all the things. And we don't even know if they're the people if that's the product that we want. I could, I may not even need $1,000 off, and you're giving me a discount before I even ask for it, right? And so the typical mentality is, I've got to sell, I've got to discount pricing, I've got to, push, push, push all the time. I've got to, the old AB whatever, always be selling, always be closing, ABC. Um, in the sales mentality, but I think the difference is, like I said, consumers are so much smarter now that they recognize all that stuff, and so they either one avoid it because they just don't want to deal, or they'll kind of play the game, right? They'll sign up for your email to get their free percentage off, but they use a fake email address that they're never going to use and get your emails in the future. There's just those types of things where people are smarter than we give them credit for a lot of times. And so the idea of helping more versus selling more is that when you genuinely, and when I say this, is not just to get to a point where, hey, I'm helping so that I can get the sale, right? If you're in that mentality, that's going against kind of what the idea here is. We genuinely want to help, and as we're helping you also to maybe make that decision where maybe you'll buy from us. But even if I help you learn something, educate you on something, just share some sort of information that's going to make your life or day or whatever business better, um, and you go from buy from somebody else, that's okay, because I helped you, and if my intention is that way, then I think that's what makes the big difference, because again, customers will know. They'll know if you're just doing this just because you want to get the sale. So I really try to focus, even though the book is stop selling. We're not stopping selling. Obviously we all need to make money, and profit is not a bad word and all those kind of things. But if we genuinely put out there that we're trying to help more so than sell, then ultimately that helping will lead us down the path that will say, hey, this guy's really helped me out, or this company has really helped me out. I'm willing to buy. And now that I'm ready to buy, these guys are going to be the ones that I want to buy from.
Yeah. I mean, this is so true, especially what we're talking about. If you're selling you as a service, this is where all this really comes together. If you're selling a mattress and you're giving out discounts, you only need to make that one sale. Let's be honest. You're people don't buy mattresses that often. But if you are a business coach or you help people fitness, you're a fitness coach, something of that nature, you don't want to start your relationship off with somebody that's just using a coupon for a one-time deal to get a free one class. You think you're bringing them in. Oh, now they're going to be all, but you're you're beginning your relationship in a way that they're believing that you're a discount,
right?
not in
And
the
then
way
they
that
have
you're
that
actually bringing them value,
yeah, and then they have that
right?
expectation moving forward because now every time they come to you, they're going to expect, where's the discount? Where's the discount code? What, why? What's the next thing I can get from you, instead of, like you said, creating that value and making them want to be part of whatever it is that you're selling. And I would even argue too that discounting right off the bat for a mattress, even though it is a one-time purchase, that person's going to know people, right? So other people in their lives are going to buy mattresses. So if your experience with buying that mattress is fabulous, whether you end up getting a discount or not is not the idea. It's like, okay, when I come to the, we'll use the mattress as an example. When I come to the mattress website, it should say, and this, I'm just making stuff up, I don't sell mattresses, but it should say something to the effect of, you know, are you tired? Are you so tired you can't even open your eyes anymore? And get to the reason why I'm looking for a mattress, right? There's always a reason I'm looking for a mattress. It's not, I'm not out there just to spend money, right? I'm out there because my mattress is old, I'm not getting sleep, I don't feel good, whatever, right? There's all kinds of reasons. And so in my mentality and the way that I would go about it is, walk me through selecting the right mattress for my particular situation, right? Are you buying a mattress for your kid? Are you buying your first king size bed? Are you those types of things that'll kind of lead you down almost a funnel within the site. This is going to lead me to making the right choice, making the right decision based on what I need. And then at the end, if there's a chance to save a little bit of money or close that deal, whatever, that's cool. But it shouldn't start that way, in my opinion.
Absolutely. A lot of new business owners need to change the way they think about things too. You're not selling your product, you're not selling your service. You're selling a solution for somebody. Somebody has a problem and you're there to fix their problem. You're actually that's what you're really selling.
Thousand
What you're
percent.
solving.
Yeah, thousand
So
percent.
you're not just as you were going through those, like you're not just selling a mattress, you're selling a good night's sleep because you're tired or whatever the case might be. You now need a king size bed because you and your wife have now crammed in this little double bed and you've had enough of that. And you're like, we need more space. So,
Right.
you know, you're selling solutions. And I think that's really a key that people need to think about, right?
Yeah, and I think you're right. I think when we go through process that when you and I did this process a couple years ago, walking through, what is it that your customers are struggling with? What is that challenge or pain or problem or whatever that they're going through? And then what is it on the other side of that they want, right? What's that thing, whether it's a feeling, whether it's a physical product, whatever it is that's on the other side of that pain, what does that look like? And that's what you want to sell to. So I'll use another example. So I have a business that sells golf cart parts, totally separate from all my marketing business stuff. Every other golf cart parts website that's out there is all what we just described: products, products, products. As soon as you get to the website and buy this here, discount, Black Friday sale, all the things. If you go to our website, it says you deserve to own or drive the best golf cart in your neighborhood, right? Because what we understand about our customer is that it's we're talking about people who have expendable income because they own a golf cart one that they drive through their neighborhood. They're on our site because they're buying upgraded parts, which cost upwards of thousands of dollars potentially. And so I'm not there to give them the biggest discount on whatever the thing is. And yes, we offer, we have a little pop up that says, "Hey, don't leave yet. Here's 5% discount or whatever," to try to recapture. but the goal is to address their emotional situation, right? And then in our case, and if you know anybody who owns a golf cart in a golf cart community, it's a total competition, right? You want to one up the neighbors, you got to have the best looking cart and all that stuff. And so that's the part that we hit. And then the subtext line says we sell this, so it's there. They know what we're doing, but the picture is a nice lifestyle picture, and it literally says you deserve, and that's a big piece, is to say you deserve X, because that's where you start to get the emotion. You're like, you know what, you're right, I do deserve so it plays into that. And then as you go through the site, it's an e-commerce site, but we also have a blog that talks about how to winterize your cart and how to change your batteries and keep them clean, and funny things that are just orangutans driving golf carts. And so we try to entertain and educate and help and all that, while at the same time offering a fantastic experience from the sales perspective and customers perspective as well.
Yeah, it's a great example because people that are coming there, they own the golf carts. They're obviously looking to spend thousands of dollars to upgrade these golf carts. 20% off sounds great and all, but that doesn't build a relationship with them.
Right.
That's just maybe the one time sell, like, oh, I got this one magical product on discount. But with you creating blogs and giving them information, you're bringing them back where you are a source now for information. You're more than just a retail store. And it's so much different of an experience for them to
Yeah.
experience that.
And that's what I hear from people all the time. And we're a small business. It's just me and my son running the business. So I get all the feedback, right? So I know directly from the customers. And it's crazy to hear sometimes from, again, talk a little bit more about the customer service side of things, but somebody will reach out, for example, and just say, hey, I'm just curious if this part will fit on this cart. And, they'll have some questions about that. That's technical stuff. And in some cases, we may not even sell that part, based on what they're asking. But if I can offer them value, I can answer their question. I can say, hey, this is what you need. We don't sell it, but here's a link to what you need on Amazon or one of my competitor sites, even. The response to that, to me, it's just natural. I mean, it's like, I can't help you directly, so let me help you in some other way, right? I don't want to, just say, nope, we don't have that. Sorry, right? So when I give them a little bit of extra help, a little extra assistance or information, people will respond back and like, oh my gosh, that's the best. I can't believe you responded to my question like that, or I can't believe you're sending me to a competitor's website, or so just those little things can make a huge, huge difference, because, like you said, they may not buy it that time, but the next time, and hopefully the next time and the next time and the next time. And if they've got a neighbor who's talking about, they need to do whatever, they'll be like, oh man, I wasn't able to get it because they didn't have what I needed, but you should go see these guys. So it all comes back, in my opinion.
It really does. Like, as you were saying that story, I said, I'm thinking in my head, Matt White is like the Miracle on 34th Street Santa Claus. He's sitting there, kids are asking for toys, and he's telling the parents, hey, go across the street. They got a better deal. Hey, they got the part that you need. And all of a sudden, that Santa Claus in that store becomes the most popular store because of the honest truth and how they help people out. So, all right, Matt White, the Santa Claus. That's where we're
That's
going
right.
with it.
That's
So
right. I have
the oddball thing of the podcast.
a little less hair.
Yeah, the golf cart Santa Claus. Okay, so that
Yeah.
kind of brings us into when we're talking about how you help people and everything. But there's things that people. The next part of your book is no one cares. There's certain parts about your business that people don't care about, but yet so many business owners obsess about it for themselves. They think this is what people care about.
Yes. And I heard, I can't remember the exact phrase, but I heard something about the other day. I think they called it the wee wees, which is basically, if you look at your website and you count the number of times that the word we or I or our or us or anything that's talking about you as the company and not you as the customer. And so that they say you've got to get rid of the wee wees, was this comment that I heard. And so that's the idea, is when I get to the website, the main message shouldn't be, and this is hits two of the points. We are the best, right? Or we have won the 17th year in a row whatever award. So there's two things in that. One is it starts with we, which they don't care about we, they care about me, right? I as the
Mhm.
consumer care about me. Um, I also don't care about your award yet or anything else. I don't care about what your building looks like. That's my worst pet peeve is in manufacturing. And there's like on their website, it's like, oh my gosh, the literal first picture on their website is a picture of their manufacturing facility, the outside, right? It's not even showing what they make. It's just like, hey, we have a building. And it to me, it's like, what in the world? Who in the world made that decision? And if you're working with somebody in marketing, why in the world do they say it's okay? Because ultimately, as we talked about, when somebody comes to your site or walks into your business, they are looking to solve a problem, fix something for themselves, they're there because they have an issue. And if the first thing you talk about is how great you are and how wonderful your service is and how all this stuff, that's so much different. And so like you said, no one cares. Nobody cares about that stuff, not yet. And I will talk about that in a second because it does matter, but it's not the first thing. The first thing is, do these people get me? And so we talk about empathy a lot, and building empathy is all this whole idea of we understand, we totally get your situation. Back to the golf cart example, we get that it's a competition in your neighborhood to have the best looking cart, and so therefore we're going to say we realize and you deserve, and all those words that tie into the emotional side of things that says we get this is where you are. If you're in another business and it's a, let's say, roof repair, if I'm coming to your thing, I don't care that you've won awards. I don't care that you have the best product even maybe. What I care about is, we understand it sucks to have a roof start leaking in the middle of winter. We can help. That's the kind of message, as opposed to, hey, look at this great picture of a house and its roof on it. It's like, why do I want to look at shingles? I mean, shingles are shingles, right? What I want to see is, and again, just using an example, would be the homepage of that website should show the pain that somebody's going through, a roof collapsing, a leak happening, and me standing there going, that type of stuff, where it's like getting to the emotional piece and tying into that empathy of, I understand, we understand as a company, understand what you're going through. And then they realize, okay, well, I'm going to go a little bit deeper. They get me. So now I need some help, right? And then I'm going to start digging a little bit deeper. Um, and then that's where what we call empathy and authority both work together. So the empathy is, I care, I understand, or we understand, we get you, we understand where you're coming from. The authority part then is, okay, that's where you can talk about the fact that you won an award. And if that award ties directly back to the empathy and what you're trying to say is, if I say we get you, we know that it sucks to have a roof, start leaking in the middle of wintertime. We carry the best, products that, 20-year guarantee, no leak, whatever. We've won this award for the best roof installments for the last 20 years. We've been in business for 37 years. All those kind of things then make me or help me to believe the things that you're saying, right? So you can tell me that you care, but then if there's nothing to back that up, then it becomes just a, like I said, they'll read right through that, as we talked about earlier. So it's a combination of that empathy and authority, but empathy has to lead, because if you just come out with authority, then it's hard to twist and turn the story to back into empathy, because I may have lost you already because you got to the site and you're like, this looks like every other site that I see, or this, I walk into the business and it's like every other store that I've ever walked into. But if I get there, particularly if I'm searching and I don't know exactly what I need, and I'm clicking on one site, look real quick, click out, go to the next one, go to the next one. If you would look at your website, and anybody who's watching this, if you look at your or listening to this, if you watch or if you look at your own website and all you did was change out the logo to one of your competitors, would that still apply, right? Or if you go to your competitor's website and put your logo on there, would you basically be saying the same thing? And my guess is probably 90% of the people listening or watching this would say, if they were honest with themselves, yes, that's actually true. And so again, and I sorry to keep going back to the golf cart piece, but literally, if you looked at, and there's 4 or 5 kind of top people in the or what companies in this industry. If you go through each one of those, literally each one you could change out, and some have them different products and whatever. But if you changed out the logo, they're basically saying the same thing, formatted the same way, carrying the same products, all the same kind of stuff. But then if you land on ours, it truly is. Now, if you're on a product page, that might, it's going to look a lot of the same kind of stuff. But the first intro to the website is, again, back to that message about you deserve to drive the best looking golf cart in your community. That's going to stand out because I've hit 3 other websites that are all selling the same stuff. It's all the same price. All, because we have minimum advertising price, so there's all that stuff is all the same. But the main difference becomes that empathy piece. We understand, we get it. And then as you scroll down the page, hey, we accept all major credit cards. We, check out our reviews, all that kind of stuff needs to be there. But that's way below the fold, meaning as you scroll down, and in my opinion, even down into the footer, because nobody cares. That's the big deal.
Yeah, well, it's funny. Just to back up a little, so let's stick with your golf cart company. So you have the empathy. Hey, you want to have the best golf cart in the community. You then offer them free advice how to winterize your battery, or how to properly clean your tires. And you got these all little tidbits of information. That little part right there builds your connection with them, that relationship. And then eventually they're gonna be like, hey, okay, and then that whole your awards and your reviews and all that really builds up your credibility. And that's like boom, boom, bang. Those are your 3 points there that are so important there. But you can't just start off, as you said, you can't start off with the first thing someone does on your website and it flashes up. Here's 20% off today's order if you order today. Well, you don't even know who you are, and I don't know if I
Right.
trust my credit card on your website. And
Or
they're
look at
already
yeah, here's this latest award that we won. And that's
oh
another thing
yeah.
that I see all the time is, these big giant highlighted right at the top, 2022. The worst is if it says like 2014, when they're we won, best customer service in 2014. So either they've never updated their website or their service sucks now, but they're still, trying to live off the good old days. But I think that's the main idea that I want to try to get across with the book and with this whole conversation is the whole idea. And again, Stop Selling, Start Helping is the name of the book. But if you can think about the helping aspect, what can you do to improve their lives, save time, save money, uh, make their lives better in some way, make their family's life better. All those kind of things is the focus, and then the sale part is if you have what they need and it's reasonably priced, and you've done all those other things first, they're more likely to buy from you than they are for somebody who they just showed up and got a discount. And then that might be a good segue into the next section about not everybody is a fit, because sometimes picking or those people that are always looking for the discount, those may not be the right people for you potentially.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, let's talk about it. Not everyone's the right fit for you. That we can get into that because so many. I just recently I was on a networking event, and this person said that they do weddings and business videos, and I was like, well, that's interesting because the two are completely different. The needs of equipment, the needs of the clients, night and day. And how can you be good at both? I mean, I guess you could if you maybe have a staff and one side of the company does this, one side of the company does that. But if you're a small business owner and that's what you do, you can't bring just because somebody wants to hire you doesn't mean you need to do that work. You, you have to be good at something, right?
Yes, yes, and I think the whole fit thing. I use an example in the book about country music, and I am not a fan, so I'm sorry if I offend anybody who is, but it is. I pretty much like all other kinds of music, but I don't like country music. And so I tell a little story, and I won't get into the details of it, but I, hanging out with some friends. It's my speaker, right? So I've got a Bluetooth speaker that multiple people were, at a cottage for a weekend or whatever, a bunch of guys hanging out, and everybody's kind of got access to the speaker, and so they're sharing and kind of playing their own version of stuff. After a certain period of time, and there were several guys there who liked country, and it was okay. But after a certain period of time, I couldn't take it anymore. So I was like, I had to change it back, whatever Jay-Z or something. I flipped back over to, and I'm like, I just can't take it. And I own the speaker, so I'm taking control here. But the idea there, and the reason I bring that up is that country music works for some people and it doesn't for others. But that doesn't mean that country music has to try to convince me to like it, right? Or as a country music singer, or as somebody else who loves country music, it's not their job to convince me that, oh, you should love country. Like, you have to. Like, it's so good, and here's why, and all these kind of things. Because I could care less. I just don't like it. I grew up in Texas. I listened to enough country music, for the first 20 years of my life. I don't need to. I don't need to hear anymore. But that idea around that is that the fit idea is country music is just not a fit for me, or I'm not a fit for country music, however you want to look at that. The same thing applies to your example of the videographer. Um, it could be budget, it could be type of video, it could be all kinds of things that come into play that say, this is you, Mr. Mrs. Customer, don't fit into the ideal scenario of what I do as a business. And so it's okay to say no to those people. And I even wrote a blog way back that was why you may not be a good fit for our business, or why we may not do business with you, or something to that effect. I'd have to look back, but it basically walked through several variations, and I think I tied back into this country music story about this. But in that particular conversation that I wrote about was, we as a business are not going to be the cheapest. So if you're looking for the cheapest website marketing consulting, whatever, we're not the answer. So I'll just tell you that flat out. And I even have it on my form when you go to fill out a form to request information or something like that. I put budget limits or budget kind of ranges on things. So we're not the cheapest. Kind of tied to that is we don't do RFPs, because that always goes back to price. And so if we're going to have to compete against two or three other people in a formal process, I don't mind competing against other people. We'll have conversations and all that. But if it's a straight up RFP and I just have to submit a proposal, we're not going to be a fit. The other thing is, and you've kind of known me long enough, I do like to talk, and I like to be connected with people, and I like to create friendships and go beyond just the business relationship with my clients. And so if you're just here for transactional kind of stuff, uh, and you want it quick and overnight and all that kind of thing, we're not, that's not a good fit for us as well. And so what I suggest around that is, not only do you want to know who you do want to work for, who is that ideal customer, and who is your best person to do business with, but also have a list of people who aren't uh, the right people. Like I said, that could be based on budget, that could be based on industry, that could be based on the pain in the ass factor, right? If I could just decide if somebody's going to take too much of my time, I'll probably figure that out in our initial conversation if you're a service business. And sorry about that. I'm gonna back that up. Yeah, if you're going through the process of interviewing them as a customer potentially for you as well, the idea behind saying, hey, either you price them way out. When I talk about the pain in the ass factor, price them way out of what it might be. If you're willing to take it on, but you can charge them twice the money and they'll pay it, then maybe the pain in the ass factor is worth it. Otherwise, sometimes it's okay just to say no. And again, when we look at a website or a business structure, a physical building or store, kind of setting up this experience that is set for a certain type of person. If your audience is females between 20 and 30, You probably don't want to have your store decked out with guns and browns and all the different colors that are associated with that, right? You want to target to that particular thing. Now, granted, as I use that example, there may very well be some 20 to 30-year-old women who do like that stuff, and that's okay. But that's not the ideal. You're not going to turn them away because they come into your store or they come into your website and want to buy your stuff. It's just more about who you're marketing to, who you're going after, and what your main message is about. And that's, I think, if we go back to the main concept of fit and things like that, is one of the biggest things. And again, you can attest to this and maybe talk to it on your own side. One of the biggest challenges that I deal with when I work with people, we have what's called a messaging excuse me, messaging deep dive. And that process is a good several hours of a time where I'm sitting down with a client, and we're asking a ton of questions and getting information from the client. And the first couple of questions that I ask is, what business are you in? What do you do? What are all the things that you do, like physically do? And then I ask, who do you do that for? And as you use the example with your guy or gal that does the photography for businesses and for weddings, that would come out, and then you'd say, okay, well, in that conversation, let's talk about that. Which is your best customer, right? And then we'll talk through what best means. It doesn't mean just the one. I may love weddings, and that's why I do weddings, but the business has to pays the bills, and so that's why I do. However you balance that out. Same thing whenever we talked with you early on, Chris, was, well, I do videos to help people, in all these situations. And so as we started talking through, it became much more focused on who is that ideal and who are you supposed to be talking to and how are you going to talk to them and how can you bring them benefits. And the biggest challenge is, well, what about those other guys that I've always been working with? Or what if somebody comes to me and they don't fit in that thing? And what I always try to say is, we're not turning away business. You can take as much business as you want from any type of industry, whatever you want to do. But when it comes to how you're marketing yourself or how you're putting your message out there, it has to be simple and it has to be clear and it has to be focused. Because if you come to your website, and we'll use your friend as the example, if I land on and I'm searching for wedding photographer, and they happen, somebody makes a recommendation and I go to their website and it's got two big things that says business videos and wedding videos, my assumption is going to be, I'm probably not looking for the person who does both business and weddings. I want to find somebody who, when I go to their website, it's like, we do the best wedding videos of all videos.
That speaks to them.
Only
It has
this,
the
only that.
branding
Yeah,
and the yeah.
right, right. But as soon as you
How do
get
you
there and you
brand to
start
both
to
people?
confuse,
Yeah.
yeah, you start to confuse the message, and then that you lose authority because, as we've talked about before, you lose authority because now they're not sure if, are you really this or are you really that, and so there's a balance. So it'd be great, I think, if you shared a little bit of your path, kind of going through that, because I know you said some of those exact same things
Oh,
that I
yeah,
just
and it's
used.
interesting, so Matt introduced me to Josh, and Josh is awesome, and I had some meetings with him, and I really and this is he put me in this mindset where I wanna work with clients I wanna work with, and I wanna do the projects I wanna do with, and that's how I should build my company. It shouldn't be, yeah, if you like weddings or business, but you gotta pick something, and you gotta go down this path and become that expert. And I have changed so many times throughout the years of who I thought my ideal client was to now it's totally different. And it's like micro business owners and solo entrepreneurs. And I really want to build up their brands. But you can't, I have to then go after those. That's who my website has to speak to, those people. And if you're trying to just say, I want to do videos, and you're like, well, that's a big phrase. Okay, what does that mean? Like, who are your clients? So you kind of do have to come down and find out who you want to work best with because you have to create a process for them. You have to buy the right equipment for them. You got to have the right systems in place so they succeed within your realm of being a client.
And what
So,
I
yeah.
love, yeah, on your end too, is it makes it so much easier to sell because now you don't have 17 different pitches. potential pitches that you're talking to people, right? So
Hmm.
when you go there, and I know this is what you've done, is you've created packages now based on that exact audience, right? For whatever it is, $4.99 a month, you can
Yeah.
get A, B, and C, or for $6.99 or $8.99 or nine, whatever. And so you've got, let's say you've got three packages that are specific to what your budget is, what exactly you need, and what industry you're in, or which social channels you want to be on, or whatever. And and that is so much easier to sell than having a custom build a proposal for everybody that you ever work with, and it works for those smaller businesses because they're like, totally get it. You tell me what I
Yeah.
get. It's this how much every month. It's all good. Now, if you were selling also to giant corporations who have levels and levels of budget approvals and all that kind of stuff, which some people, that's their audience, and that's totally cool. But you wouldn't walk in with a 4.99 offered to them
Yeah.
and they just make a decision,
That's not what
right?
they're looking
So
for. Yeah.
yeah, so I think
I
it's
just I just met a brand new business owner yesterday at a luncheon, and I said to her, the greatest thing that I wish I would have done years ago was to really create those simple packages and say, this is what I do for you. You're perfect. This is how I help you. This is how we can build a relationship. This is how we can strategically, I can help your business out. And I, for years, just thought, oh, I'm doing video, and it was so generic. And I just couldn't get my brain around it because nobody else does what I do now. Like, I am different than any other video production company. And it's okay. You're allowed to be different. Different's
right,
good. I mean, how many different burger joints can there be in town? I mean, they're at a certain point. Burger King, Five Guys, McDonald's, they all make burgers. Okay, they're all somewhat surviving. But then you had McDonald's try to sell salads. They try to do something different. Oh, what a disaster that is. No one wants a salad from McDonald's. So, yeah, you have to really define what you want to do, how you're going to help your people, and that's so good. So, that brings us to the last thing, which is you got to build a personal brand. So, like you talk about positioning yourself as the expert. And that's what people want to do. They want to work with experts.
right. And what you just used in an example is exactly that. I think the expert pieces, there may be somebody out there that has the exact same equipment that you do, the exact same budget that you do, the exact same studio that you do, all the exact same stuff. But the way that you become the expert is by having that kind of specialty or niche or target or however you want it, differentiation that is unique to you, because you can say, even though you've done a whole bunch of videos for a ton of people and you work for football teams and you do, there's a lot of stuff you do outside of your core, what you're trying to go after. But when you're talking to people and they see and hear you say, we work with micro businesses and solopreneurs to do ABC, that's when they hear that, they're like, that's me. As opposed to the person who says, yeah, we do videos for these kind of people and these kind of people. We could totally do it for you too. Right. So that message is so totally different. So that creating yourself and building yourself as the expert um, is goes back to the authority part that we discussed earlier, and it's an easier choice now for that person to make because they can say, okay, we've got these two options, right? These guys, it's the exact same price. Let's pretend everything is the exact same price. Everything is equal. But this guy says he works for just solopreneurs and micro businesses, and these guys do it for a whole bunch of people, including solopreneurs and micro businesses. 99% of the time, they're going to go with a guy who's the expert because it just makes sense, right? Um, Again, all things being created equal. But then if you differentiate those other things, I would even venture to say somebody would be willing to pay more for your service than they would for the other one because they're more generic, because they're less authoritative as far as their credibility and kind of focus and clarity on their message. Because that's, again, if I'm the kind of use an example, I'm sitting in my office here and my son is a gamer, and so I've got this big giant gaming computer and all these screens on the other side of my computer that you can't see. um, if I'm going to buy this computer here and I want it custom built, I don't want to just buy a computer. I want it I want all these components because I'm a gamer and I want to do all these things. If somebody comes to me and says, "Hey, I can do that, and I've done this for gamers who game and race car gaming all the time. My price is $9.99 to make this happen, or whatever the price is." And then I go to somebody else, and it's like, "Hey, we can buy this off the shelf, or I can, we do this. We've made a million computers over the years, and da da da. And here's an option that would probably fit you, or you could choose this option or this option." If I'm saying, "Hey, this guy's going to custom build, and even though the price may be a little bit more, I'm much more likely to go with that guy because of the expertise that he offers, the authority that he offers." And like I said, kind of going back to the conversation about a fit or not a fit, if my sole purpose is to get the cheapest, I may go with one of those other people. But for this guy who builds custom stuff, he can ask for a higher price because he's working for and doing things for a particular audience, and has the value and has the ability to say, "Hey, I do charge more, and here's why I charge more, because A, B, and C. Feel free." And this is where I think the helping versus selling comes in. I see what you're talking. I'm using an example. I see what you're talking about here. I think what I'm trying to sell you here is a great opportunity, but it sounds to me like you're more focused on price than you are on some of the features or customization that I can offer. You're much better off going to Best Buy, and here's the one that you probably should use. And how much greater an experience does that person have the next time they go to build a computer, or the next time they talk to somebody who has money to be able to do such a thing, again, to make that referral, that reference, to say, "Hey, I wasn't able to do it myself, but this guy was awesome, and if I had the money, I totally
Oh.
would have done it because he helped me a lot." So just an example there.
And you're probably following that guy on Twitch and Twitter, and you're seeing him on social media, and that guy is your expert, and you're turning to him when you want to buy accessories and to get that expertise, and he becomes your guy that
Right.
helps you build your gaming computer. And at the end of the day, once you hit the point where price doesn't matter, which that's what everybody wants their clients to be, they don't want price to be the deciding factor with your clients. You don't want anybody to work with you because of price.
Right.
They're going to turn to him because he's the expert at this. He's the gaming computer guy, and that's what you ultimately want to build for your own business. Is you want to be the guy, you want to be the
Right.
gal, you want to be the person that people turn to, regardless if they're in purchasing mode or just in education mode. You want to be the expert.
Yeah, and that's a great point too. The purchase mode, that's a great example, because when people are buying things, especially if you're in a higher end, higher price point, or those kind of things, a lot of times those decisions can take time, right? So it's not something that I'm just gonna jump on and look at the first site and buy this thing. So I see data on the back end of our stuff. Our average ticket on the golf cart site is somewhere around $750, and there's a lot more that spend thousands of dollars, and there's some that spend a few $100. But I can track in my data on the back end that says, this person came back 9 times before they made a purchase. And so there was something over the course of, could just be 9 days, it could be 9 weeks, that they came back each time. Maybe they opened the emails that I sent to them because they filled out, they added something to cart, and so we got them in the system or whatever. And so that idea of in the buying mode is huge, because that goes back to this idea of always selling, is that you're assuming that they're going to buy right now. But if I'm just researching, I don't want to buy. I'm not looking for the best price. I'm not, I just want to find out what are the differences between these two TVs or these 5 TVs or whatever. And so that's where you have to always think about, people aren't always in a buying mode when they're talking to you or when they're looking at your website or whatever. And so, and most times, I would venture to say, most times they're not. So it's more likely that they're not going to buy that instant than that they are. And so if you're able to be that help and that resource and that tool, and educate them and do all those things without a sales message, they're much more likely to follow that and connect to that and sign up for your emails or whatever it is. And then 9 weeks, 9 times, 9 days, whatever it is down the road, then they'll come back because you were able to build up that trust to begin with.
This has been a great conversation, Matt. If someone wants to get a hold of you and work with you, how can they do that?
Sure. So the website that we have is youarethesuperhero.com. It's all spelled out youarethesuperhero.com. And we do what we call kind of the superhero arsenal. We basically take somebody through who wants to clarify their message. So I mentioned the message and deep dive a little bit earlier. We then go through what we call business growth game plan. We do a website wireframe, and then we ultimately do a marketing automation blueprint. So it's a pretty intensive, comprehensive type of a system that we go through. It's usually 4 or 5 months worth of time to go through it. It's about $20,000 that we kind of break out over that time period. So if that's where you are, Matt at youarethesuperhero.com is my email, or you can just go to the website and request a confirmation or a consult there. If you're not at that place, totally fine. Like we talked about already, some people aren't a fit, and that's totally cool. But stopselling, starthelping.com, or just search for the book on Amazon.
Well, thank you, Matt, for joining me today, and thank you for tuning in. And I hope you learned something today.